Hey guys, welcome back for part 2 of Evangelion 3.0 plus 1. Oh, Evangelion 4. Alright, like that's way too much of a mouthful. But anyways, wow, we have just gone through an incredible 90 minutes, and at this point, I just want to see how exactly they're going to end this conflict, right? I think everybody wants to know how they end this. If they are going to shock us a bit more with the visuals. I mean, I'm expecting some pretty trippy stuff in the final 90 minutes here, right? Or the final hour here, because obviously we are going to be dealing with all the Evas and angels and all that good jazz, right? The atoms, the Eves, and so on and so forth. And yeah, so get ready for some trippy visuals, I'm assuming. And then of course, maybe we can also understand like what the heck this particular rebuild series is all about, and then how it relates to the original series and the original animes and movies, right? So, without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, starting off where we left off in part 1, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Completely broken through. Still calling him Commander, eh? I mean, I think we've gone past the point of any particular individual at this point. You gotta love the chants in the background as well. That's been happening throughout this entire movie. Oh. Like I said, get ready for some trippy stuff. All part of a master plan. We choose the third road.
セットではなく希望のコンティニューを選びます。
私は神の力をも克服する人間の知恵と意志を信じます。
真理の捉え方の違いだ。葛城大佐には世界が、赤城の幸せな形が見えていない。これで全てのホースマンは揃った。
Huh. So were just first ships the Four Horsemen of the apocalypse?
預けていたエヴァ初号機を返してもらう。
父さん。
Of course, it's gonna come down to Shinji-kun. Can they go to places that haven't been tainted red yet? Nope. Anti-universe. Well, let me pilot an Eva. Oof. Damn. Hmm.
現在も碇シンジは私桂木美里の管理下にあり、これからの彼の行動の責任を私が負うということです。
I've been waiting for her visor to come off.
生きてくことだけを考えよう。もうなんやろ。
Oh. Hello.
準備に手間取っちゃった。さあ行こう。ワンコくん。
マヨ、艦長室に保管してあるプラグスーツを。
弾はすぐに溶けます。今応急処置してますから。
大丈夫よ、少尉。碇シンジ君、父親に息子ができることは肩を叩くか殺してあげることだけよ。家事の受け売りだけど。
美里さん、梶良二君に会ったよ。
元気だった？そう、よかった。
すごくいいやつだった。ちょっとしか話してないけど。
I'm glad we were able to see Misaki without her visor before the very end. I was kind of afraid that they were going to remove it only after everything ended and whatnot.
美里さん、行ってきます。
いってらっしゃい。では仕事に戻りましょう。艦はボロボロ、手記も補給も失ったまま、こうして浮いてるだけでも奇跡ね。それで結構。予備動力が尽きる前にさらなる奇跡を起こすわよ。
オーバーラッピング対応型の開発とアダムスの器を取り込んだプラス 4in1 状態のおかげでこの裏宇宙でも難なく
Anti-universe. What the fuck?
アンチのシステムが全てみんなが小明かしてしまう前に第13号機起死回生を図るしかない。
わかってる。
しかしさすがは玄道くん、裏宇宙なのをいいことに量子テレポートを繰り返してる。こりゃあ捕まえるのにも目が折れそうだね。
大丈夫ですよ。行ってくるよ。
ワンコくん、第13号機の中に姫の魂が暫時されてる可能性がある。だから姫をアスカをお願い。
やってみるよ。
Are we ever going to like understand Mari's character?
君がどこにいても必ず迎えに行く。
You know, like her story and whatnot?
絶対に待ってなよ、シンジ君。
ありがとう。
I'm assuming that there's going to be some other supplement material talking about her, right? And her relationship with Asuka.
ごめんなさい。イカリ君をエヴァに乗らないで済むようにできなかった。
いいんだ。ありがとう、綾波。あと僕がやる。
お願い。
初号機パイロットが覚醒したか。
開発経由でマイナス宇宙からの信号受信。エヴァ初号機再起動。めっちゃありえないっしょ。疫病神のシンクロ率はゼロなのに。
まさかシンジ君の本当のシンクロ率はゼロではなく、
Infinity.
近い数値。
シンクロ率無限大です。
ほう、希望の槍カシウスと変わるか。
Like I said, I knew it. We're gonna get trippy.
アナザーの目的として考えられるのはただ一つ。ホース用に槍を新造し、アディショナルのために2本の槍を最後まで温存したの。おそらくたった一つの願いのため。
Bring someone back.
もうすぐ会えるな。
Yep.
動かない。離してよ、父さん。
Although considering that Yui's own soul is
モダオブジェクトだ。人ではない何者かがアダムスと6本の槍とともに神の世界をここに。
6 spears.
私の妻、お前の母もここにいた。すべての始まり、約束の地。人の力ではどうにもならない。運命を変えることができる唯一の場所だ。
Oh.
なんだここ。
お前の記憶の世界だ。
父さん。
マイナス宇宙を我々の感覚機能では認知できない。故に LCL が知覚可能な仮想の世界を形成している。おとなしく初号機を渡せ。そうすれば、お前も再び母に会える。無駄な抵抗を試みるか。これだから子供は苦手だ。
Fighting against what? The fate of the universe and humanity comes down to hand-to-hand combat. Oh. Not gonna lie though, I feel like the CGI here is not as impressive as you know, the previous battle scenes and whatnot. Although I think it may be deliberate, right? Because they are saying that this is a virtual environment created by the LCL, so it's okay if it looks, if it takes on a bit of the Uncanny Valley appearance, right? So it's supposed to be trippy. Yeah. So you're actually fighting against yourself?
もう私に必要な儀式だ。
もうやめてよ、父さん。
無駄だ。お前のひ弱な力では私を止めることはできない。
Oh. For Kawaru! soundtrack to this is amazing.
そうだ。これは力で決することではない。
父さんと話がしたい。父さん。父さんはここで何がしたいの？
フルゴのオブジェクトでしか起こし得ない。アディショナルインパクトだ。
Additional impact.
私の神殺しへの道へとつながる。そのために最後の2本の槍をここに届けた。
やはりマギコピーの予測も碇司令が最後に槍を2本とも使い捨てる可能性が高いわね。槍を全て失うとシンジ君が発動を止める術も失ってしまうか。
じゃあどうすんのよ。
私たちで新たな槍を作り彼の元へ届けます。
で
What?
それこそどうすんのよ。
本艦がブーセとして乗っ取られていた時、艦隊は黒き月をマテリアルとして見知らぬ槍を生成していた。ならばこの艦を使って新たな槍を私たちで作り出せるはず。ブンダーに人の意志が宿ればさらなる奇跡もあり得るわ。リツコの知恵とビレとブンダーの言霊を私は信じる。無茶言うわね。サンプルはさっきの発動データしかないの。リツコには十分だ。そうね。やってみるわ。
This is so ridiculous.
ノープロブレムです、副長先輩。いつものことですから。
政務長、幸い予備動力と脊椎結合ブロックは無事です。ここで直接組み替え作業しちゃいましょう。
ダメよ。あなたたちは退避して。ここにいるだけで危ないのよ。
最後の方向です。やれるだけやりましょう。
これだから若い男は。
さあ、碇司令が何かやらかす前にシンジ君をサポートするわよ。
初号機パイロット、お前に見せたいものがある。
I love how they still call him Commander.
黒いリリス。
お前の記憶ではそう映るのか。エヴァンゲリオンイマジナリー、桂木博士が予測した現世には存在しない想像上の架空の
An Ava that is imaginary and fictional.
等しく信じる生き物、人類だけが認知できる。絶望と希望の槍が互いにトリガーとニエとなり、虚構と現実が溶け合い、全てが同一の情報と化す。これで自分の認識、すなわち世界を書き換えるアディショナルインパクトが始まる。私の願いが叶う唯一の方法だ。
Oh, hello. Aren't you cute? Oh. Okay, maybe you're cute as well.
アディショナルインパクト。
ええ、おそらくあれがエヴァイマジナリー。まさか実在するとはね。
変よこれ。
Thank you for being the voice of reason, girl. Hey, in Ava anything is possible, alright. These are all Ray copies? Mm. Scaria Mar. What? No, I don't think so. Uh-huh.
艦長、あとここにいるクルーで十分よ。了解。総員体感。
アダムスの器なるエヴァはスパータイプです。さすが冬月先生。手際がいい。にゃー悪いけどオーバーラッピングのための糧になってもらうわ。やっ8プラス9プラス10。
I guess 7, 8, 9, eh? That was a bad check. Never mind.
プラス11。さあラスト行ってみようか。
第4脱出カプセルまでのハッチを閉鎖。艦内残留者は速やかに5番カプセルに急いでください。
やはり私、総監席に戻ります。
今は生き延びるのが俺たちの仕事だ。どれだけ辛くともな。
艦長、組み替え作業完了。これでいけると思うわ。了解。すべての送還システムを艦長席へ。その後速やかに体感して。ミサト、これは誰かが確実に発動させなければならない。そして本艦の責任者は私です。生き残った命を、子供たちを頼むわ、リツコ。分かってる、ミサト。ベストを尽くすわ。ありがとう。
Oh, the designs of these things are just absolutely awesome.
予備電磁力は残りわずか。やはり最後に頼るのは昔からの
Uh,
反動推進型エンジンね。
damn. Oh, look at that shot. That is definitely emotional on so many levels.
もうリリンが君らを使うことのない。ゆっくり眠りな、アダムスたち。
Adams.
出した合流を急ぐ。しかし人類のフィジカルとメンタル両方の補完を同時に発動させるとはまあ。君は
父さんは何を望むの？
お前が選ばなかった AT フィールドの存在しない。すべてが等しく
That you refused.
他人との差異がなく、貧富も差別も争いも虐待も苦痛も
So yeah, this is like
魂だけの世界。
after Shinji chose already.
安らぎの世界だ。ゆいゆいゆいゆいゆい ぜシンジがここにいる？
父さんのことが知りたいから。寂しくてもいつも父さんに近づかないようにしていた。嫌われているのがはっきりするのが怖かったんだ。でも今は知りたい、父さんのこと。
AT フィールド、人を捨てたこの私に。まさかシンジを恐れているのか、この私が。
これは捨てるんじゃなくて渡すものだったんだね、父さんに。
Just penetrate the eight, feel like nothing.
僕と同じだった父さんも。
ああ、そうだ。ヘッドホンが外界と私を断ち切ってくれる。無関心を装い、他人のノイズから私を守ってくれた。だが、ユイと出会い、私には必要がなくなった。
名前決めてくれた？
男だったらシンジ、女だったらレイと名付ける。親の愛情を知らない私が親になる。やはりこの世界は不安定で不完全で理不尽だ。世の中は他人の言葉通りに受け取ってもうまくいかない。その時々で人は違うことを言う。どっちが本当で、どっちに合わせていいのかわからない。多分どちらもその人には本当なんだろう。その時の気持ちが違うだけだ。私は人とのつながりを恐れた。人であふれる世界を嫌った。幼い頃から。
I mean, essentially, Gendo's just. We're just learning about Gendo that he's basically Shinji, right?
それを良しとしない人間もいる。他の家に行くのが苦手だった。興味のないクラスメートや親戚の家に連れて行かれて、その生活の情報や実行を押し付けられるのが嫌だった。他人といるのが苦痛だった。私は常に一人でいた。
Introverts unite.
好きなものが2つあった。一つは知識だ。一方的に得るだけの知識は私の心の上を満たしてくれた。知識に気遣いは不要だ。時間のある限り私の中に好きなだけ与えることができたからだ。もう一つはピアノだ。調律された音は鍵盤の正しい音を返してくれる。
Piano.
それにはすまない。裏切りも必要だ。私を粛々と音の流れに変換してくれる。そのシステムが好きだった。一人が好きだった。私も他人も誰も。
That's smart, isn't?
一人が楽だった。
Yep. So yeah, Mari is actually.
私は生きている。
Ah, okay, I see. I see here.
ありのままの私を受け入れてくれる。
So she's actually a peer of Yui then.
優位を失った時、
That's why she keeps on calling Gendo as Gendo-kun.
自信がなくなっていた。初めて孤独の苦しさを知った。優位を失うことに耐えることができなかった。ただ、優位の胸で泣きたかった。ただ、優位のそばにいることで自分を変えたかった。ただ、その願いを叶えたかった。私は私の弱さゆえに優位に会えないのか。シンジ。
その弱さを認めないからだと思うよ。ずっと分かっていたんだろう、父さん。
なんだ。
きっと美里さんだよ。
Her lord. Oh my god. Show it to the world. The use of music and pieces throughout this has been incredible.
全て失っている。世界を書き換える新たな槍はありえないはずだ。
神が与えた希望の槍カシウスと絶望の槍ロンギヌス、それを失っても世界をありのままに戻したいという意志の力で作り上げた槍ガイウス、いえビレの槍。知恵と意志を持つ人類は神の手助けなしにここまで来てるよ、ユイさん。
お母さん、これしかあなたにできなかった。ごめんね、領事。
ありがとう、イサトさん。
他人の死と思いを受け取れるとは大人になったな、シンジ。ユイを再構成するためのマテリアルとしてシンジが必要か否なのか最後までわからなかった。願いを叶えるには報いが伴う。子供は私への罰だと感じていた。子供に会わない、関わらないことが私の贖罪だと思い込んでいた。その方が子供のためにもなると信じていた。すまなかった、シンジ。そうか、そこにいたのか、ユイ。
I think Gendo has thought things through.
彼が今回
アスカやみんなを助けた。
そうだった。マジか。リアリティだ。
お父さん、僕が話につけるのやめますか。
Hmm? That was too quick to see. But I want to know if this was actually the setting all along, or something that, this world only became this way in one of the many iterations, if it even is that.
強い体と心を持つの。だから私を褒めて、私を認めて、私に居場所を与
What? What are you?
思い出した。何度もここに来て君と会ってる。
生命の書に名を連ねているからね。何度でも会うさ。僕は君だ。僕も君と同じなんだ。だから君に惹かれた。幸せにしたかったんだ。
そう。顔は父さんと似てるんだ。
So in the end, Shinji chose the Kawaru route.
涙で救えるのは自分だけだ。僕が泣いても救えない。だからもう泣かないよ。
そっか。君はもう成長してたんだった。少し寂しいけど、それもいいね。
カオルくん、第13号機。君のエヴァも処分しようと思う。
うん。エヴァを捨てるか。すまない。僕は君の幸せを誤解していた。
ええ、それはあなたの幸せだったんです、渚司令。あなたはシンジ君を幸せにしたいんじゃない。それにより
Commander Nagisa?
僕の存在を消せるのは真空崩壊だけだ。だから僕は見た円環の物語の中で演じることを永遠に繰り返さなければならない。
Circular narrative, yeah, it happens again and again and again, right? Repeating the process. But why is it kind of different?
仲良くなるおまじないだよ。
相補性のある世界を望む。変わらないな、シンジ君は。
だからこそあなたが彼を選び、生命の書に名を書き連ねた。
ありがとう。りょうちゃんにも救われたよ。
光栄です、渚司令。
嫌だな、りょうちゃん。そろそろ香るって。
まだお預けです、渚司令。渚とは海と陸の狭間、第1の使徒であり第13の使徒となる人類の狭間を紡ぐあなたらしい名前だ。あなたは十分に使命を果たした。あとは彼に引き継いでもらってもいいでしょう。桂木と一緒に老後は畑仕事でもどうです？
そうだね。それもいいね。
Does this actually...
残っているのは君だけだ。
Hey. Look at her hair.
もう一人の君はここじゃない居場所を見つけた。アスカも戻ったら新しい居場所に気づくと思う。
エヴァに乗らない幸せ、碇くんにそうしてほしかった。
だからここじゃない君の生き方もあるよ。
そう。
そうだ。僕もエヴァに乗らない生き方を選ぶよ。時間も世界も戻さない。ただエヴァがなくてもいい世界に書き換えるだけだ。新しい人が生きていける世界に。
世界の新たなネオンジェネシス。
買いに来る。だから安心して。
そう。
Oh.
碇くん、ありがとう。
やってみるよ、綾波。ネオンジェネシス。
This is This is a version of Shinji that actually made a direct, conscious choice. Oh. Hey. Yui. Mom. Every single one. All the Avas. Wow. Wow. And that's why this marks the end of the Evangelion series, right? Because there's no more Avas. There's no more Evangelion. They're all reverting. Yeah, so the world continues on, right? It's just that everything related to, Ava's angels and Adams and Eves and all that, they're all gone. Alright, who's gonna pick Mari? Or maybe not quite yet? Wait, this is the credit scene? No, no, no. This is the storyboarding and all that. Oh, that's really meta. Right. There she is for him. Right before he reverts to not even being drunk. Oh, that is so meta. So is this before? After? Like normal? What? I don't... Oh, I almost thought this was like live action or something. Is it? Or is it CGI? I can't quite tell. Wait, so is this a world that's... Even though what Shinji said was that he's going to remove all the Evas, right? But is this like the aftermath of that? Like, are they implying that humanity has rebuilt everything, or... Well, since there was that... But... Well, there's definitely a little bit more after the end. I'm sure that at this point everybody is like, what? WTF? What just happened there at the end, right? Oh. I... Like, again, I still don't quite get if this is just, like, multiple timelines and whatnot. If they're redoing the same thing again and again and again and again, and each time it's a little bit different, right? Is it that kind of situation? Or... Like, have they managed to break free of this infinite loop now? Is that what's being implied here? And that was the result of the cumulation of redoing it so many times? Was that the case? And so everything, including, like, Yui's sacrifice at the end. But... is this supposed to be a better version of End of Evangelion, though? Alright. I'm gonna save, those stuff until after the ending credits. We'll talk more in the, sort of discussion part, right? Respect to everyone here. This is such a great anime, right? Again, the story side, we'll talk more about that. But beyond that, though, like, again, just the visuals, the pacing, and all that, this was absolutely brilliant. Alright. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk too much here because I want to save things till because I feel like some people might have skipped this part as well. And I also want to take some time to really consolidate my thoughts. I'm just looking through this because I feel like they definitely deserve respect for this anime. Rift? Ooh. Indian studio, eh? And pictures. CGI studios. Visual effects. Special effects. Line test. Editing. And here's the seiyuu list. Tiffel world. The Kappa word. The Kappa word. I'm gonna... It's gonna be really, I don't know if there's gonna be, like, maybe a 10-15 second little scene after the end, right? I honestly don't know. Anyways, you guys can skip ahead if you guys want, because I'm just gonna see this through to the end. NASA scientific. Those background music, that was absolutely awesome. I love the ambience that the music brings, the background music brings. Okay. Executive producers. Directors. Head director. The end. Really the end? Really? No. Okay. Huh. Wow, really the end, eh? These are just the credits for all the different various dubbings. Damn, they really did us like that. In Americano. Rico. Portuguese. Hindi version. Korean version. Taiwanese version. And that is it. Wow. See you guys after this. Alright guys, now it is time for the musings/discussion part. And first of all, let me first admit that I did not record this immediately after I finished watching the fourth movie. You know, Evangelion itself is just too complicated a series to really immediately have any thoughts right after you go through it, right? I rewatched many scenes many times. I have my own thoughts on what actually happened and so on and so forth, trying to think things out, and I basically sat on it and thought about it over the past few days, I think almost a week now, without actually really looking up anything online or looking at other people's theories or whatnot, but you know, just trying to internalize all the information that has been given so far, and also try to structure what exactly I'm about to say, right? Because, like, this is a long-ass movie, and not to mention it's a accumulation of 4 different movies as well, and also accumulation of, you know, the overall series in a sense, which is 26 episodes plus another 2 movies plus these 4 movies, and, you know, many other spin-off franchises that I haven't actually watched or read or played, right? Because there's also games as well. So I'm gonna try my best here, right? So hopefully you guys can follow along. So first of all, let me talk a little bit about probably the most pressing question, right? What exactly does, you know, these rebuilds mean to the original series, right? Is this a continuation? Is this a timeline change? Like, what exactly is it? Well, at this point in time, I'm not sure if there's been additional information released by the producers, by Anno or somewhat, in regards to this. I would venture a guess and say probably everything is left deliberately vague, so allowing us to interpret it as we can ourselves, which is also part of the fun, right? So we can't really fault the producers for doing this. Now, personally, I believe that what we're dealing with here is sort of like a multiple timeline kind of thing, or a multiverse in a sense, similar to how, you know, like for instance, in the Marvel universe, or the, you know, the DC universe, or something of that sort. They have like multiple worlds, right? Multiple timelines and whatnot. You know, not only timelines, but multiverse, right? There's many different worlds. You know, the exact same. Sorry, there's an Earth in all of these different timelines, but they're all a little bit different from each other, right? And even though you still have the same characters and whatnot, they differ from each other a little bit. So I think what's happening here is that this is actually a completely different and parallel world, or different universe to the original ones, and not really just a continuation and then sort of like how do you call it? Like like a reset or whatnot of the original timeline. I think the original timeline as we know it, right, the original series, that's doing its own theme. This is like a parallel universe in a lot of ways. Now, however, within this parallel universe, I do believe that the history keeps on repeating itself, as is evidenced by a lot of Kawaru's words and some of the stuff that we see later on in this movie as well, where it seems that in various different timelines, Kawaru is assuming different positions. Sometimes he himself is the commander of Nerve and so on and so forth, and basically things related to that, right? So again, it's left ambiguous, deliberately so, I feel, but to me that is the best sort of explanation here, right? They keep on going through this same sort of circular fate, circular destiny, if you will. So Kawaru is fated to meet Shinji. Shinji is fated to eventually make some sort of decision in regards to, Impact and the Human Instrumentality Project and so on and so forth in regards to the Evas, and each time, the end result hasn't exactly been the most favorable to Shinji, right? Or the most favorable to Kawaru, or most favorable to the world, depending on how you want to interpret that as well, right? And so, through some reason or another, these timelines keep getting reset and reset and reset, and that also kind of ties in with the full title, right? The original Japanese title of this particular movie as well, which, I've seen that some people say that, you can refer it to as, a dot dot and then, just the end sign, the musical end sign, or you can interpret it as a repeat sign, and which means that you need to go back and play through the whole thing again, right? Now, and I do like that sort of double entendre there. It's quite quite genius, I feel, but essentially what this is implying is that they're going through the same situation again and again and again, and now trying to make one final push or one final decision that is going to be truly the end of this cycle, and maybe finally peace and happiness for all the characters here, right? And another thing I find actually really funny about this entire situation is Shinji's wish or his decision at the very end there is actually really akin to the Madoka Magica series, right? If, at least the very original ending as well. No spoilers or anything, but I feel like people who like Eva probably like Madoka Magica, and when Madoka Magica was first released, it was constantly compared to Eva Evangelion in a lot of regards due to its similar psychological, sort of concept, and the horror and the despair and depression and so on and so forth, and trying to persevere through it, right? And I just find it kind of ironic that many years later, it's in fact Evangelion that's sort of pulling a Madoka Magica and just wishing all the Evas away in a sense, and ending the entire situation, breaking through the cycle of fate through that kind of ordeal. Now, how he managed to do all that, I guess that is another story, but we'll talk more about that towards the end here. And so, if we think about this, so I think this is the best way to tie it neatly with the original movies, or with the original series, that's, at least to me, that makes much more sense, right? Now, you could also argue that maybe it's all in the same time, in the same world. There is no multiverse. It's the exact same world. It's just that, maybe sometime in the future, through some sort of method, time replays itself and so on and so forth, various different timelines, and I guess that could also be a possibility, and the pros of that kind of theory is that in the end, there is no multiple versions of Shinji and all the other characters, where some of them do suffer in other timelines, like for instance, end of Evangelion. Can you really say that is a adequate ending to everything? I guess in chronologically, in terms of the release, it would be considered the second ending, right? Or you go back to the first ending, which is even more vague. The omitted doll congratulations scene with Shinji and all that, which seems kind of good and happy and uplifting at the very end, but really nobody knows what exactly happens at the end there, right? So and then first ending versus second ending, is it is it really a retelling of the ending, or is it just is it another multiverse kind of thing, or a different timeline kind of thing? You can put your theories for each, right? And I think ultimately it depends on if you're a more optimistic or a more pessimistic, or a more logical or a more romantic kind of person. I feel, but at least to me, I think the best way to merge all of these different media together is the multiverse, right? And I think that would also make a lot more sense when you consider all the various other spin-offs as well, with Shinji and Asuka and Rei and the others, living their normal school life and so on and so forth. So I think that probably ties everything together better. So, with that being said, and holy shit, we're already 9 minutes into this. Let's continue on, right? So let's look at this chronologically, and let me first talk a little bit about this movie in general, and then maybe follow it up at the very end with a final conclusion to the entire Rebuild franchise, right? So starting off, we open up with a very, very cool sci-fi battle. Which is, not entirely Eva focused. I really love the visual. Like, if nothing else, the Rebuild series is absolutely fantastic in terms of its visual and its audio production, right? I think nobody can take away from that part. And I really love the creative use within the opening battle as well, especially the uses of the battleships, right? Using it as a sort of decoy and as a sort of weapon, and also as a sort of shield. Because it actually is, to me, a sort of throwback to how how the humans in the Evangelion series fight against the angels or the Evas, or I guess they are kind of interchangeable, right? And what I'm talking about, like for instance, back in the original series, how they went up against the fifth angel, right? That cube, no, not really cube, that double pyramid. I forgot what the correct terminology is. That kind of that particular angel, right? And if you guys recall, the way that took down that angel was using a long range rifle, right? But in order to protect the person who was firing the rifle, they had to have a shield to block against the fifth angel's attacks. And what did they use as a shield? They used like the freaking bottom of a space shuttle. Actually, I don't think it's exactly a space shuttle, but you guys get the point, right? And my point here is that just using these kinds of creative uses of technology here, even though they have like all of these Evas and so on and so forth that are half biological, half mechanical, and then really monsteristic and grotesque in a lot of ways, but they also utilize these sort of more normal day, modern day technology in a sense, and use it in creative ways to go up against their opponents, right? And so I love that usage of the battleships there, to not only have a very visually stunning and visually impactful scene, but also going back to the resourcefulness of Misato and the others, and really the humans in the series, and how they fight back against insurmountable odds using these kinds of creativity, right? So love that. It also set up the scene for the sort of LC field concept, so we can kind of understand that, hey, the entire world, the Sea of Red is really not a good thing, and so on and so forth. And this does play on later as well when we get to the village and so on and so forth, right? So that is a good setting up scene, and really going on to the entire village arc, right? I love the juxtaposition between what we had just in the opening scene, where we had these, really epic sci-fi battles, sci-fi fights. We got these Evas, these really alien, but also very, how can I say, very, very primal kind of biological / mechanical beings, and then having all those kinds of weird and exotic technologies and so on and so forth, and then going back to a village setting, which is in the midst of everything, all the craziness that's happening out there, we have this really simple very, how can I say it? Very rustic village, right? And the humans there are just trying their best to survive, and it's almost mundane in a lot of ways, right? Like having people just go out into the fields and work, and then also take their time to have baths, to have a library, and so on and so forth. I just love how we suddenly get to this sort of calming scene here, and we see what the rest of humanity is actually doing, right? The little guys, what are they doing here? And we also see that, hey, there are still specks of humanity within the world, and so on and so forth, right? So we get that as well. And of course, it's also, that arc is also important because we're getting more build up of Rey's character. We've really not seen much of her at this point, or at least one of the clones of Rey, right? We get that part, and then we also understand that Rey is a clone, and we also get some hints that Asuka is a clone as well, right? So this is definitely differing from the original series in that part as well. And then I guess another important thing amongst all of that is getting Shinji back on his feet, right? Now, I definitely do feel that this is a little bit different. Like, the Shinji here is also a little bit different from the original series Shinji. I will say that the Shinji in this particular movie here, and I guess you can say this rebuild series, definitely matures a lot more, a lot faster, and it reached a further level of maturity than any of the Shinjis in the original series, right? Which is evidenced by the ending decision and so on and so forth, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. I feel like it was kind of too easy to get him back on his feet, but is that true or not, right? Because essentially, at the very end, the way that Shinji got back on his feet was really due to Rey, right? Due to her saying that, yeah, she appreciates him, she needs him, people appreciate him, people need him, and so on and so forth. I'm not entirely certain if that was, if maybe that was a little bit too easy in a lot of ways, but, for the purpose of story progression, let's just put it at that, right? So anyways, he gets back on his feet, they go back to Wonder and whatnot, and then we also have the cool ship battle scenes and so on and so forth, right? And once again, the animation there, right? And the entire visual concepts, like breaking through the LC fields and so on and so forth. Like, that is absolutely great. And the fact that the Wonder is actually, Noah's Ark, right? All these references to, of course, Christian theology and so on and so forth. And by the way, I'm not going to go through every single piece of reference here. That is like way too much, and I'm sure that there are wikis out there that sort of consolidate this information much better than I could ever do, right? So let's put that aside for now. But again, we get to see these epic battles, these epic ship battles, and these epic Eva battles as well. And I think, to me, though, the highlight of that is really just to be able to see Misato's face once again, right? Which we haven't really seen in movie 3 and movie 4. And, I mean, I wasn't really all that, completely... I was kind of meh about the entire outburst situation in regards to Shinji piloting an Eva again, and I guess it was necessary, and it was kind of building towards that kind of conflict, but in the end, I just found it to be very, like, I don't know, it was just kind of there. I was just going, to me, like, internally, I was basically being like, okay, guys, I know what you're gonna do, can you just hurry up, get your piece over with, and then let's move on to this story, right? I wasn't really too sold on that part. And, oh, I guess an important thing there, which also touches on Shinji's maturity as well, is his dialogue with Asuka before they went to their respective, things that they needed to do, right? Indeed, I was already surprised, as I think evidenced by my reaction as well, at Shinji's sort of understanding of the situation there. And yeah, so what can I say, right? Just in that scene alone, I feel like the Shinji there has already surpassed the maturity of all the other Shinjis that we've seen so far. So, good on him. Good on him. And finally, we get to the finale arc, the finale part. And here is where really I have both a great love for what happened and also, you know, some points that I am not so keen on, right? So first of all, the pros, right? I do love that it's a change from the previous iterations in that we're not only focused on Shinji himself, right? Which is, you know, I feel like in the previous series and whatnot, we've always gone through Shinji's struggles and so on and so forth, right? And it really, in a way, the entire story is just a story of Shinji. Even though, you know, we might think he's a whiny brat, we might think he's, you know, he's hopeless and so on and so forth. There are times when we want to punch him as well, but at the end of the day, he is the main character, and the ending reflects that as well. It's his decision. He needs to get through his mental state and his psyche and manage to make a decision there, right? However, I feel like in this, we finally get to see some closure for all the others as well, especially for Gendo, right? And, you know, to be fair, it was kind of hinted very early on in, I think it was Asuka that said it, right? That you need to talk with your father, right? And I do love that they expanded more on Gendo's character here, which I think a lot of people probably already guessed, how how Gendo's personality is perhaps quite similar to Shinji, right? Like father, like son. Ultimately, you cannot break through that. And, you know, we do see here that, hey, they are in a lot of ways similar. Now, the only difference is that Gendo managed to find Yui, right? His one true love. And so he changed because of that. And, you know, he's doing a lot of this stuff because of that as well. But actually seeing it on screen, you know, that is great, right? I love that they went through that entire thing there, and really it's almost like looking at a mirror, right? Both Shinji and Gendo, they are essentially seeing reflections of their own selves as well, and you know, that's cool. I really love that. And another part of this is how, you know, I keep on saying Shinji gaining maturity and whatnot. And really, with this ending here and with what he chosen, he really took on the responsibility by ending the suffering and managing to find a good result, not only for himself, right? It's not only for himself, for his own purpose, for his own happiness, for his own hope or whatnot, right? Even back in the end of Evangelion movie, right? It was really, at the end, he made the decision because he wanted to be with others, right? It wasn't that, oh, I think humanity should do this, should do that, or whatnot. He felt lonely. He wanted to be with others, right? And so that's what drove him to make his decision. But what drove him to make this decision here is, of course, he wants to end the suffering for himself, but he also wants to end the suffering for others as well. And, you know, what does it all go back to, right? Asuka having her entire existence being defined by being able to pilot Eva. And, you know, that is true both in the original series and in the iteration of Asuka that we see here. Rei as well, right? Being born out of Yui, although I'm not really sure if that's still true in this particular iteration, but anyways, them, you know, all the children, as we could call them, really being here because, you know, they are destined to pilot the Eva, and maybe this is the same sort of, it's their salvation, but at the same time, it's also the source of their despair and their negativity and so on and so forth. So the only way to break through this entire cycle is to remove it completely, right? And so now we have the true reset here, where all the Evas are wiped out, and I think this is actually retroactively, so not just from this time forward, but I think what Shinji actually meant there is that he's going back through time as well, right? He's retroactively making it so that Evas never existed in the first place, so none of this, you know, none of this actually happened, essentially. At least that's my interpretation of this. Now, then again, of course, with the ending there, it's hard to say because, you know, you could argue, like, why does Shinji still have that DSS choker on him and so on and so forth, and, you know, is this actually a sort of continuation directly from the events here, and maybe what Shinji just simply did was make all the Evas go away from this point forward, and then humanity managed to rebuild everything or something of that sort. But to me, I don't think that makes sense. I think what actually makes sense is if, you know, that is actually a world. Like, they go into the future, true, but they actually go into the future where Evas never existed in the past either, right? So I think that's what's being implied by that scene there. And as for, you know, Mari and all that, you know, what exactly it meant at the very end with Mari and Shinji having this near flirt or whatnot, I don't know, man. Is it honestly, I think this is just trying, the producers trying to open up this new route of possibility, this third route of possibility, right? Or fourth, if some of you guys want to count Kawaru as well. But that to me honestly is what that scene actually represented. But to me, I think that the main point here is that I think what happens there is that that is a future where Evas did not exist in the past, if that makes sense. All right. Now, why does the DSS chokers, why is it still there? And I don't know, but I think maybe it has something to do with Mari and Shinji being the only two people who truly know what happened, right? Because in the end, it was Mari who went to find Shinji, and so on and so forth. And so that is basically, that release of the choker there is essentially a sort of symbolic release, right? Symbolic release from this fate. And it's really her saying to Shinji, yeah, you did it, right? You did it. You broke free of it, and now we are free to enjoy this world, and so on and so forth. That's what I feel this is. It's kind of Inception-like in a lot of ways, but anyways, moving on. So that's all the stuff that I felt was great from the finale here. Now, what did I hate? What did I not like about this? I think hate is maybe a strong word, but I do feel that there was too much Deus Ex Machina here. Now, what does that mean, right? Basically, too many stuff that was really just hand-waved away or was put in there for the sake of convenience. And that goes for both sides, right? Both on the antagonist side, on Gendo's side, having access to all this weaponry, having, like, what was that? We clearly know that Gendo is a little bit different, right? Because of his eyes and visor and whatnot. But then, being able to transcend humanity because of the, what was it called again? The keys of Nezukonibur or something of that sort. And I mean, the imaginary Eva or infinity Eva, like, what the hell? I mean, it's not like the original series did not come up with a lot of, these very cool and unique concepts, and some information was only released towards the end of the series as well, but I feel like in this movie in particular, they kind of went overboard with everything here, and throwing that all the way, and, I was just talking about the antagonist side. On the protagonist side, though, we have all these spears coming out of nowhere as well, and, that's also something that comes from both sides, right? Both on Gendo's side, being able to create all these spears in order to bring about impact, and then for Misato to at the very end say, we can also build a spear, and then use that spear to revert everything once again. I feel like that is just a little bit too convenient in a lot of ways, right? Even though I can accept some of these sort of devices in order to advance the story, and don't get me wrong, it's still cool, right? The rule of cool there, it's cool sounding, the visual effects are cool, the way they use them is cool, but still, you kind of still want to have a more solid foundation to build your story progression on. And so that to me is probably the biggest criticism I have of this particular movie, and really I think of the Rebuild series as a whole, right? Because they don't really go into in depth in a lot of the other things. Some things are just taken for granted, and it's just more of a case of, yeah, this is how the situation is, accept it and move on, right? So yeah. And that's my biggest criticism of it. And as for the actual ending, it's still left ambiguous. I talked about like what that ending actually represented. I have my own interpretation, obviously. And another thing that I feel is something left ambiguous, but it shouldn't have been, is what actually happened to Yui, right? Shinji's mom. If this new world here where Evas did not appear in the first place, does that mean that Yui did not actually sacrifice herself, and in this new timeline she existed here just as a normal mother, and potentially because the world still converges in a way, maybe she also died early on, maybe due to some illness or sickness or whatever, but at least not due to Evas, right? Not due to impact. Or is this a case where the ultimate sacrifice of Yui is that she sacrificed her entire existence in this timeline, in this multiverse, to essentially reset it, right? The ultimate sacrifice here. Which, to me, would be... That would be, like, the one sad thing that comes out of all this. But it would also kind of make sense in a way for her to make this ultimate sacrifice in the end. Again, if we go back to end of Evangelion as well, it was always Yui there wanting to make that ultimate sacrifice for humanity at the very end, right? So it would tie into what her personality is and what she would wish for. You know, as a mother, she just wants the best for her child and whatnot. And then, you know, the conversation with Gendo once again, there is the concept of parents, you know, giving up their future selves for their children, who represents their future essentially, which kind of ties in with you know, how humanity as a whole views parenting and so on and so forth. How you really sacrifice, you know, once you have offspring, once you have your children, you're really sacrificing everything in your own life for them, right? And you're taking that sort of concept and running with it more and more. Yeah, I would have liked to know a little bit more on what happened to Yui, but I guess, again, it's left ambiguous for us to just interpret on our own. And so, at the very end here, right, so we talked about all this, and this is nearing 30 minutes already. What do I feel about the Rebuild series as a whole? Now, first of all, again, production value, like, absolutely spectacular. I think there's no question about it. If you look at all the you know, how the art is drawn, you know, technology advancements, the budget that's being poured into it, and so on and so forth, it is fantastic, right? The audio-visual aspects of this. Do I love that they are taking another new take on the storyline? Actually, yes, I do. I do like that they, you know, we are presented with this sort of alternate telling of the story, right? And, you know, again, using your own interpretation of it. For me, since this, if I'm looking at this from a multiverse perspective, I'm like, okay, hey, it's cool that there is a universe where this kind of Evangelion story exists, right? Now, with that being said, though, as much as I love these Rebuild series of movies, I do feel that it is not exactly the most complete, right? And this goes back to, again, I feel like, you know, the sort of target audience for the Rebuild series is really those who are fans of the Eva series already, right? You've already seen through all the originals, so you come into it with some expectations as to what these characters are. And so, you know, only having 4 movies time, and adding so many new elements as well, they don't really get into the development of a lot of the characters. So as a standalone, I don't think it really works all that well, to be honest. And, no, if we are going with this sort of multiverse kind of setting, and, you know, whether or not you believe in that, right? I think it's fairly obvious that the Rei in this particular retelling, the Asuka in this particular retelling, and heck, the Shinji in this particular retelling are quite different, actually, from the original series characters. So, the fact that we're not allowed to have more time spent with these characters and to truly understand them, to truly watch them grow, it's part of the reason why I love the village scene so much, right? Because we actually get to see Rei, some display of her character, and so on and so forth, and to a certain extent Asuka and Shinji as well, right? So having that, I feel would have benefited this even more. Unfortunately, due to time constraints or whatnot, we don't really get that. So, you know, that is a big downside of this particular retelling. And, you know, what I mentioned before, so many contrived conveniences and so on and so forth, even though they're cool and even though it's integrated in a really amazing way and a cool way, but I feel like it's just kind of too crazy in a sense that it's entertaining for sure, and my mantra has always been, if you can't be logically consistent, then you should go balls to the walls crazy and make it entertaining, right? And I feel like that is exactly what this series is. Whereas the original series kind of had a mixture of both, right? Even though it went really full on crazy and you know, and psychedelic in a lot of ways, but at the very least you could still sort of build a coherent theory of everything for that. Whereas here, you kind of just have to accept some things as it is and just say, yep, that's how it is, and just roll with it, right? Not to say that this didn't happen in the original series, but there was much less of it, I feel. And so, you know, can you actually say that one is better than the other? Honestly, to me, no, right? I've said many times before, the original Eva series is already one of my top 3 anime of all time, right? So, no, that's not gonna change. You know, this series, to me, I'm not even going to rate it separately, right? It's just part of the overall Evangelion series franchise as a whole. So, nothing really changed for me about it. Do I feel that the original series is already a complete story? Yes. I'm not exactly a person that requires a happy ending for everyone at the end of a work, so I was already fully content with either the original episode 26, the first ending, or the second end of Evangelion ending, right? I was completely content with that already. Having this new ending, sure, new universe, new timeline, whatever you want to call it, fine, cool, and I like that it went a different direction from the originals, but I guess at the end of the day, what I'm saying is that I don't really think the existence of the Rebuild series really adds or detracts from the original series, if that kind of makes sense. But if you look at it from that kind of perspective, then of course I am glad that there is this sort of more modern, updated version, in terms of the animations and visuals and whatnot of the Evangelion franchise that we can enjoy. So at least on that part, that is definitely a 2 thumbs up in my book. So hopefully this sort of musing section came across as coherent, and I would love to know your guys' thoughts as well. I do believe that Mad Lad of Culture, who is a good friend of mine, I think he wants to do like some sort of discussion, like podcast, where we talk a little bit about other concepts and whatnot. Maybe that'll go through, maybe not. But if it does, feel free to check that out. And if it does, and I will probably link it below. So for some of you future people who stumble upon this, hopefully that will be fun for you guys. And if not, well, hopefully what I've been saying here makes a lot of sense. Sorry guys for taking so long, but I feel like especially for the Eva series, you have already waited so long for the 4th movie. You guys should know how to wait patiently by this point. Anyways, thank you guys for watching up to this point, and hopefully this did not bore you guys. Feel free to leave your own thoughts and comments and theories as well, and I will hopefully see you guys sometime in the future in another series or maybe something else related with Eva, right? So take care guys, and bye bye.